Yes, folks, as promised, we do have the legend and icon himself, WWE Hall of Famer, in our studio today and joining us on the program. So, Tito Santana, welcome to the program, and thank you for being here today. How are you today, sir?
Jason, thank you so much for having me. You have no idea, I have been looking forward to this for quite a while. I'm doing fantastic, and I'm really looking forward to talking to the fans with a conversation with you.
Absolutely, and I can tell you I'm very excited. I'm a longtime fan, grew up watching you, and I'm still a wrestling fan to this day. So you really are one of the folks who, you were part of my childhood, and it's an honor to have you here today. So, Mrs. Santana, we just want to chat a little bit and talk about your early career and then some of the hurdles you may have faced during your career. So, how did you get into wrestling? What was your motivation?
Well, my motivation was, I guess, looking for a way to make a better life for me and my family, which was in Texas. I met Tully Blanchard because we played college football together. We were on the same team. And his father was a promoter in San Antonio, Joe Blanchard. My junior year, they started talking to me. I didn't know anything about wrestling. And Tully kept saying, Dad thinks you can have a great career in professional wrestling. So I met Terry Funk, and then Terry Funk started talking to me about becoming a professional wrestler. And before you know it, I went ahead and played with the Kansas City Chiefs for a little while. Then I went to Canada, played for the BC Lions. After the Chiefs, I told Tully, I said, I want to play one more year, and then I want to start training to become a professional wrestler, and that's what happened.
So at what point did you realize that this was your calling, wrestling?
Probably when I had my first match. They had me, we started out in 1977. Tully and I went to Tampa, Florida, and I started training with Hiro Matsuda, and Barry Orton, Bob Orton's brother, was also breaking in, and Cowboy Bob Orton's father, Bob Orton Sr., was helping train Barry. So I was getting help from Barry, and I was getting help from Hiro Matsuda. I found it very difficult. My whole body was black and blue, all bruised up. It wasn't until I had my first match that I realized this is what I want to do.
And earlier, at that time when you first launched your wrestling career, there really weren't that many mainstream Latino wrestlers or minority wrestlers on the whole. Was that a major hurdle for you, and did you face a lot of obstacles?
To be honest with you, when I first broke in, I started in San Antonio, and I refereed a few matches. I met Mil Máscaras, and I met Luterio, who was also a Mexican-American wrestler, and I met Chavo Guerrero real early in my career, but I never realized that I was going to be competing against those guys. It took me a while to realize that I was their competition. I don't think that I was treated very well. I think they knew that I was going to be coming after their positions, and so I had to figure out a way to maneuver myself without being cocky, without being selfish, and letting them know that I was sincere about wanting to learn. And I think they all accepted me, and started helping me.
That's definitely something else. And I mean, you face nearly every big name out there, from The Undertaker, Ted DiBiase, Macho Man, you name it, you face them. And throughout your career, who would you say has been your toughest competitor?
Well, I do believe that the toughest competitor that I think I ever met was Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. That guy was a wrestling machine. He was his physique was unbelievable. His workout effort was unbelievable. I remember early in my career, before any of us, either one of us made a name, we had a 20-minute draw match in Tampa, Florida. And I mean, I was totally exhausted by the time, you know, the 20-minute bell rang. I couldn't have been happier for the match to end in a draw. I didn't get beat, but I was exhausted. It was a lesson for me.
Hey, you mentioned draws and fighting to the time limit. We don't see that today in today's modern day wrestling. We don't see it anymore. It's like that's one thing that I personally really miss about the golden age of wrestling, your day of wrestling. The fights, the competition, it was wrestling. I don't know, but we'll get into that. But those days, you saw draws, you saw all of these things, and it really was the golden age of wrestling. Now, you were one of the top names in WWF, WWE at that time. Do you feel personally that you should have been a bigger name in the industry, that you should have been more of a face of the industry?
There's no doubt in my mind that I felt that I should have been a bigger name. I confronted Vince McMahon, and I would ask him for meetings, and I'd say, Vince, you're not using me right. When my first T-shirt came out, my T-shirt was selling more than Hulk Hogan's T-shirts. I know this for a fact. Bobby Heenan told me that I was getting more mail than Hulk Hogan when I was having my feud with Greg the Hammer Valentine. There was talk at some point that I was considered for the world title. I wish, you know, I would have had a run. I believe that I was over with all the ethnic groups and all the wrestling fans. You know, I could have been pushed all the way. I don't know why Vince didn't give me the push that I thought I deserved, but you know, it was his company. You know, he owned the company.
Right. I mean, it is what it is. But regardless, you truly had one of the greatest careers in the wrestling industry. So holding the belt isn't always the most important thing. It's really making a name, and you certainly made your name. Now, wrestlers on the whole, being on the road and traveling nonstop, I've always heard some of these crazy stories from other folks about these crazy stories they've experienced on the road. Were there any experiences that you had while traveling, like with fellow wrestlers? Something memorable?
Oh, God. One of the funniest experience that I had was probably when I can't even remember his name, but the Bulldogs dropped some pills on one of these wrestlers, and before you know it, this wrestler is out in the middle of the night, you know, peeing right outside a hotel, and he didn't get arrested because he was a wrestler, but there was a lot of ribbing going on. You know, as hard as we were working on the road, traveling all the time, you know, there was a lot of stuff going on, you know, after the matches. And some of it, you know, I can say that I'm really proud of things that I saw.
Right. Definitely, I know that's not an easy thing, being on the road all the time. And, you know, if you as a family man, that's definitely not an easy thing. So, you know, you were one of the folks who laid the foundation for the wrestling talent of today. Do you still watch wrestling as a fan, or do you keep up with it? And what's your take on wrestlers today and wrestling today on the whole?
Well, to be honest with you, I don't watch wrestling. It's a completely different event. Now it's a TV production. It's a TV show. With us, it was a wrestling show. The wrestlers don't have the ring psychology that we had. You know, we learned ring psychology by wrestling veterans, you know, and those veterans were were teaching the young guys, and if they thought you had a career, they would take better care of you and they would teach you more. We learned from the best, and it's impossible because you don't have old school wrestlers in the WWE anymore that could wrestle with those guys day in and day out and just teach them. That's got to be taught, ring psychology. But the styles that we incorporated, old school wrestling, it's not a style that the WWE really wants anymore. And I believe that's a mistake. I believe the fans want that old school wrestling. They want to be, they want to jump in and live the stories that the wrestlers were telling, back then. We used to have some feuds. I had the longest feud with Greg the Hammer Valentine that went on for about a year and a half. The fans just, lived, through our feuds. Not only mine, everybody was unbelievable, performers.
Absolutely, that's a great point. You mentioned that the fans, they don't want that what's being put out there today, and I mean, me personally as a fan, WWE is really not listening to the fans. The fans really want to go back to your days of wrestling, the golden age, and what laid the foundation. Like right now, it's too much of a soap opera, and that's my personal view on this, on the whole wrestling industry right now. So I hope they do listen. I hope they do go back to the way things were during your heyday. And we'll just have to wait and see on that one. Now, is there any one wrestler who you never had the opportunity to wrestle that you would have loved that chance to wrestle?
No, I pretty much wrestled everybody in the business at the time. I would have liked to have wrestled Mad Dog Vachon as a heel, but when I was in Minneapolis, he was one of the biggest baby faces, with a face like his and his style. I don't know how he could have been a baby face, but the fans loved him. He had been a heel for a long time, but when they switched him over to a baby face, the fans loved him. I would have loved to have wrestled him because he looked like somebody who would be fun to wrestle against.
Oh yeah, definitely. That would have been a dream match for everybody to watch. Now, you're one person who I can say, like, you've really, a lot of wrestlers, they tend to have these tragic lives, or they really don't know where to go, like, after wrestling. But you're one person who has just stayed on track and always maintained your life as a family man. What are you up to today, and how did you manage to stay on the right track, given everything that comes with wrestling?
Well, my background, I came from a migrant worker family. We used to be migrant workers. I started working in the fields when I was 7. It was hard work, let me tell you, to be out in the sun all day, and the money we were making was peanuts. And I realized at a very young age, I need an education. And my dad would take us out at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year. So I was missing school at the beginning, and at the end, I didn't start going to school full time until my freshman year in high school. And that's when I started playing sports. That's when I started playing football, and I got a scholarship, and I got my college education. So, my advice for any athlete, you need a college education, especially nowadays. It's so important. Now I've been a school teacher for 23 years, and it's been very rewarding for me. I know that I've helped some kids. I know I've made a difference, and that's the best thing I ever did. And the best thing I ever did was the fact that I had something to fall back on. I see a lot of my friends who are really struggling in life. We weren't making the big bucks like Hulk Hogan, back then. We made okay money, but it wasn't enough for us to retire, you know, at an age of 40 or 45.
Right, right. Well, you know, you bring up a good point. Always have a backup plan, and education really is an important thing. So, to all the young folks listening, you heard it from the man himself. Have a backup plan, have an education, and build your foundation. Now, Mr. Santana, you you recently put out a book, and I do have a copy of that book. Don't call me Chico. I actually have an autographed copy of it. So, thank you very much for that. And I read this book. It is a great book, and I can tell you, you don't have to be a wrestling fan to enjoy this book. You really take out. It's very motivational, and to hear your story and hear everything that went on in your life, it's a great book. So, what do you want readers of this book to take home with them to gather from this reading this?
Well, if anybody's interested in reading that book, uh, all they have to do is they can order it through PayPal and go Solis Merced at yahoo.com. I want them to feel, you know, my beginnings, you know, why I was so structured and why I was so dedicated to the sport and to being successful, and the importance of education. You know, to me, the most important thing was education and family, and you know, it's something that'll be with me forever.
Absolutely, well said. And you know, like I said, that is definitely a message that you gain from reading this book. And you don't have to be a wrestling fan. It's just so enjoyable. So, congrats on this book and all of its success. Now, Mr. Santana, I know you are a busy man, but we do appreciate you being here on the program with us today. For younger viewers who are out there right now, you know, they have that dream of being inside that squared circle, of becoming a WWE professional wrestler. What piece of advice can you offer to them?
Well, uh, it's such a difficult business to get into. But if you want to be a professional wrestler, uh, my first advice is to start training to become a professional wrestler. But in the meantime, keep up with your education. Get your education first. You don't want to have it in your mind that you're going to wrestle first and then go back to college. It doesn't work. You got to get your education first and then go 100% after it. I mean, I left Texas and drove to Tampa, Florida, with only the money that I had made playing football with the BC Lions. I didn't have anything else. I didn't have anybody else support me. I couldn't rely on my parents, you know, totally on myself. If you're going to go for it 100%. You can't go for it just, I don't know if I can say this word, half-ass. You got to go 100%.
Right.
You got to give it all you got. Myself, I said to myself, I'm going to pretend like this is a college education. It took me 4 years to get my diploma, my college education. I'm going to allow myself 4 years to get a college education. I was very lucky. You know, it's not who you are, it's who you know. Andre the Giant got a film from Texas, brought it to Vince McMahon. I was wrestling in Madison Square Garden after 2.5 years after I broke in. I was lucky. You know, I made friends with the right people, and Vince McMahon gave me a break, and I made it. How many people don't get the luck that I had? How many people are trying to make it? And, you know, after you give it you know, your best, and if you don't see a future, don't hang on. You know, it's a lot of people are getting hurt in the ring, and if you're not making money to support yourself and your family, it's not worth the injuries that you're going to be suffering later on.
Very well said. Thank you for that advice. And I can imagine, I really see the teacher in you coming out as well, you know, the advice that you give, and you're so motivational. So you know, those students who do have you as their professor, their teacher, they are very privileged. So once again, Tito Santana, WWE Hall of Famer, thank you sincerely for joining us here on the Legends and Icons live stream today. And we do hope you'll come back again, and we wish you all the best in everything that's happening right now. Any closing words for the listeners and viewers out there?
I just want to tell all the fans that I'm sorry, but my phone is ringing here.
Not a problem, not a problem.
I want to tell all my fans, thank you for supporting Tito Santana during my career and after my career. Wherever I go, there's always the fans that are supporting me with, you know, my book, my 8x10s, my t-shirts, and I want to thank them for their continued support.
That's what I was waiting for. There you go. Thank you very much, Tito Santana. Once again, WWE Hall of Famer, true legend, true icon, and thank you for joining us today. And we, a great one, Santana.
Thank you.